Mr. Chopra, what the hell is happening in our country? This is Canada. People came here from around the world to live in safety. But under Justin Trudeau, it's turned into chaos and crime, drugs and disorder everywhere across the country.
So, Mr. Poilievre, how you see this Bill C-11, which is the Online Streaming Act?
They lied. They caused this drug crisis. A Poilievre government will sue the big pharma companies. Nothing works in this country.
How you see NDP and Liberals tie up?
Costly coalition. The average house costs $450,000. The average rent for a two-bedroom in the 10 biggest cities in Canada was only $1,100. You could afford to live. Gas was affordable. Food was affordable. Our economy was the best in the G7. Those were wonderful times for Canada. Well, it's $40 billion of extra inflation, taxes, and debt on the backs of hardworking Canadians.
Mr. Poilievre, in the latest Nano survey, the Canadians preferred Mr. Poilievre as the preferred Prime Minister candidate. How you feel that? And recently, just news is flashing to us right now.
Anybody who's smart would listen to Stephen Harper. He's a great political strategist, and he was a great Prime Minister. She loses 80 cents of that dollar to taxes and clawbacks. 80 cents.
So, Mr. Poilievre, how you see this Bill C-11, which is the Online Streaming Act? How many parties are opposing this bill?
One. You're looking at it.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦਾ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਬਜਟ ਪਾਸ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਕ੍ਰਿਸਟੀਆ ਫਰੀਲੈਂਡ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਟੇਟਮੈਂਟ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ, ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਲੀਡਰ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਟੇਟਮੈਂਟ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਵੇ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਬਜਟ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਰਿਵਿਊ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਬਿਲ C-11 ਜਿਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਸੈਂਸਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਆਨਲਾਈਨ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮਿੰਗ ਐਕਟ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਜਾਨਣਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੋਲੀਵੇਰ, ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਫॉर joining with us today and welcome to Prime Asia.
Thank you very much for having me. Great to be with you, Mr. Chopra.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. Mr. Poilievre, federal budget is out. Being an opposition leader, how you review this budget? What is there in the budget which is missing? Because this is a 40.1 billion federal deficit also this year has been predicted. So how you review this budget?
Well, it's $40 billion of extra inflation, taxes, and debt on the backs of hardworking Canadians. It'll mean you'll pay more for everything as a result of Justin Trudeau and the costly coalition with the NDP. The problem is the cost of government is driving up the cost of living. Trudeau's literally doubled our national debt, adding more debt than all prior prime ministers combined. And that bids up goods and services, and that's why we're paying so much. Worse, Mr. Chopra, tomorrow morning, I'm afraid you're going to wake up to an ugly surprise. The carbon tax is going up again on April Fool's Day. So the joke is on anybody who has to buy food, heat, or gas. Enough. We need some common sense. We need to cap government spending, cut government waste, and eliminate the inflationary deficits and carbon taxes to bring home lower prices for hardworking people.
Mr. Poilievre, being an opposition leader, why you are critic of this budget? Reason is I'm asking you this because the Liberal government is saying that this budget will boost dental care, green economy and GST rebates. And NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, he's saying that we are pressurizing, we are pushing government to help Canadians via this budget. And being an opposition leader, what do you have to say on both these statements?
Look, here's a basic fact. The government cannot give you anything without taking it away. Government has no money. None. Zero, zip, zilch. They take every dollar they give you from your pocket in the first place, and they gobble a bunch of it up in the bureaucracy. So my point is, let's cap government spending with a common sense dollar for dollar law that says every time you bring in a new dollar of spending, you have to bring in a dollar of savings to pay for it. Let's fire the high-priced consultants that are gobbling up $21 billion of money every year from this government. Let's stop wasting money, and let's get rid of the inflationary deficits and carbon taxes to bring home lower prices for hardworking Canadians.
So you are not at all happy with this budget?
Well, there's also a war on work, Mr. Chopra. The reality is if a single mom earning 60 grand earns another dollar, she loses 80 cents of that dollar to taxes and clawbacks. 80 cents. So she's making 25 bucks an hour. She's bringing home $5 an hour for that extra hour she works. That is a penalty on our work. A Poilievre government will bring home powerful paychecks by reforming and cutting taxes and clawbacks so that hard work pays off again. In fact, we need this to be a country that works for the people who do the work.
Mr. Poilievre, security and safety is a major concern in Canada. All over Canada, I won't say one province, but it's all over the Canada. And crime is out of hand. We have seen carjackings, we have seen violent offenders, we have seen repeated offenders. We have seen that TTC and the Toronto, the transit system, they have been shaken by the recent incidents of crime and series of crimes. Nobody feels safe. And your party, Conservative, they brought a bill on cash and release parole policies. What are those policies?
Well, yeah, you're right. First of all, nobody feels safe after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. It used to be, before him, that life was very safe and very calm on our streets, but violent crime is up 32% since Trudeau took office. We see the stabbings on TTC, or the poor man who was stabbed right in the stomach at a Starbucks in plain light in Vancouver in front of his wife and daughter. He died bleeding to death. We're seeing these crimes happen everywhere. Why? Because the same violent offenders are released again and again and again under Trudeau's liberal bail rules. It's catch and release. You get arrested in the morning, you're out on bail by noon, you commit another crime, and then you're arrested, and then you're out again by 6 p.m. It's the same small, tiny little group of criminals that are doing almost all of the crime. Enough. A conservative common sense plan will end catch and release, bring in jail, not bail. Jail, not bail for violent offenders. We'll ban hard drugs rather than legalizing them, and we'll invest in treatment and recovery to bring home our brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors, drug-free.
Mr. Poilievre, right now we are interviewing you, and right now we are getting a message, a news flash break news that one of the jail here in Brampton and GTA is being attacked by two people. They try to enter the jail and try to escape the inmate from that. And recently,
Wow.
just news is flashing to us right now. So it's very, and Toronto Sun, they have published that news right now. So it's very challenging, the security situation here in Canada.
Mr. Chopra, what the hell is happening in our country? This is Canada. People came here from around the world to live in safety. But under Justin Trudeau, it's turned into chaos and crime, drugs and disorder everywhere across the country. This is insane. Enough. We have to bring in common sense rules that put repeat violent offenders behind bars. Let's tackle the drugs rather than legalizing them. And by the way, we need rehabilitation to get people off drugs. And you know who should pay for it? The big pharmaceutical companies that brought those drugs here as medications in the first place. They said they were safe and non-addictive. They lied. They caused this drug crisis. A Poilievre government will sue the big pharma companies for $45 billion to get the money to pay for treatment and recovery to bring home our brothers and sisters drug-free.
Mr. Poilievre, if we discuss about the Bill C-11, which is one of the important bill, and Online Streaming Act, many people, many Canadians, they are not aware about this bill. And recently you posted one video also on that there is an emergency in the parliament. There is no debate on this. There will be a censorship on the content which we want to see on the internet. So, Mr. Poilievre, how you see this Bill C-11, which is the Online Streaming Act?
It's a censorship bill. It will give the Liberal-appointed CRTC the power to determine what you see and say on the internet. The CRTC will have the power to manipulate social media algorithms to promote and demote content based on what it considers to be Canadian content. Now, Mr. Chopra, is this show that I'm on right now, is it Canadian content? I think it is. You're a Canadian, I'm a Canadian. But does the CRTC say that that's Canadian? We don't know, because they don't even have a definition for Canadian content. It seems to me that it will be anything approved by the Liberal government will be called Canadian, and everything they don't like will not be. So they'll be able to to shut out voices like yours, and it's going to be the big corporations, Bell, Rogers, and Shaw, who control the broadcasting networks. They're going to have their voices enhanced, their content will be pushed by the government, and voices like yours will be shut out because you're not part of the inner sanctum of this Liberal government. We need to repeal this censorship law, fire the gatekeepers, bring back freedom of speech, bring home freedom. My purpose in politics is to put you back in charge of your life by making this the freest country on earth. Let's bring it home.
So what is the status of Bill C-11 now? Is the debate happened or is not, is passed without the debate?
So Trudeau shut down debate. He censored the debate on a censorship bill and rammed it through the House of Commons yesterday. It's now going over to the Senate, and my senators are going to fight tooth and nail against this censorship bill and in favor of freedom of speech. If it becomes law, Mr. Chopra, I commit to you, I will repeal it. I will put an end to this censorship bill to put you back in charge of your speech, your values, and your views.
How many parties are opposing this bill?
One, you're looking at it. Only the Conservatives are standing up for free speech. The NDP, Bloc, and Liberals all support the censorship law.
How you see NDP and Liberals tie up?
Costly coalition. And this is the choice we have, Mr. Chopra. You have the costly coalition of the NDP and Liberals. They're going to drive up your taxes, drive up house prices, drive up crime. Or you have the common sense Conservatives who are going to bring home lower costs by getting rid of the inflationary carbon tax and deficits, bring home powerful paychecks with lower taxes that reward hard work, bring homes people can afford by getting rid of the gatekeepers to speed up and lower the cost of building permits, bring home safe streets with jail not bail, banning drugs and making big pharma pay for it. This is the common sense of the common people in our common home, Canada, your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home.
Mr. Poilievre, minimum wage in Canada is approximately $16 an hour. And if we compare with Australia, in Australia, the minimum wage is quite high as compared to Canada. In G7 countries, Canada has the maximum debt. Inflation is very high. We have seen that Bank of Canada, they raised the interest rate 7 to 8 times in a row. So how you see this situation of maximum debt comparing with the minimum wage? How can a simple Canadian, like those who are working in the coffee shops or a McDonald's or other stores where they are getting a minimum wages, how can they survive?
They can't. They're getting ripped off. They're going to food banks. 1.5 million people went to a food bank in a single month last year. We have some people going to the Mississauga food bank asking for help with suicide, asking the CEO of the food bank to help with medical assistance in dying, not because they're sick, because they're hungry and miserable. We didn't have these problems before Justin Trudeau, but food prices are rising faster than at any time in 40 years. House prices, the cost of a mortgage, of rent, or a needed down payment for the average home has doubled under Justin Trudeau's 8 years in power. Everyone is worse off. Enough. We have to bring home lower costs by getting rid of the inflationary carbon taxes and deficits, bring home powerful paychecks with lower taxes that reward hard work, and bring homes people can afford by getting the government gatekeepers out of the way. I'm going to require big cities to get out of the way and allow more home building if they want to get federal infrastructure money. I'll link the amount of dollars they get to the number of houses that get built. There'll be bonuses for cities that allow more building, and there'll be fines and clawback infrastructure money for those that stand in the way. We're going to require every federally funded transit station have high-density apartments around it and on top so that our youth and seniors can live next to the train. And I'm going to sell off 15% of federal buildings to turn those big, ugly buildings into beautiful new homes for our young people. We'll have millions of new homes, and that will give people a chance to start a better life. Let's bring it home.
Mr. Poilievre, in the latest Nano survey, the Canadians preferred Mr. Poilievre as the preferred Prime Minister candidate. How you feel that?
Well, it's common sense. When they look at Justin Trudeau and after 8 years, everything's broken. Nothing works in this country. And he's clearly not working for the Canadian people. He's working for himself. He spent $6,000 on a hotel room for himself for one night. $6,000. Who the hell spends $6,000 on a hotel room for one night? This is incredible, and made taxpayers pay for it. He spent $136,000 on a vacation for him and his family to Jamaica and made taxpayers pay for that too. People have had enough. They want common sense. Here's a common sense idea, Mr. Chopra. We have 19,000 immigrant doctors and 33,000 immigrant nurses banned from working in our hospitals because they can't get a license to practice. I want a blue seal national license based on testing of ability, that an immigrant could take the test and get an answer within 60 days of whether they'll be approved to work in their profession. That way we could have thousands more nurses and doctors serving patients in our hospitals. We could have more engineers and architects, more powerful paychecks. It's common sense, and that's why people are supporting Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre, for joining with us today. And the last, any message for the Canadians?
It's, my story is not a lot different than your viewers and listeners. I was born to a 16-year-old unwed mother who put me up for adoption to two school teachers. But they always taught me that it didn't matter where I came from. It mattered where I was going. It didn't matter who I knew. It mattered what I could do. And that's the country my wife came to as a refugee from Venezuela. It's the country that we want our children to inherit. It's the country we want for you as well. It's really the common sense of the common people united for our common home, Canada. Let's bring it home.
Mr. Poilievre, in the end, one thing came that recently Honorable Stephen Harper, he mentioned that Pierre Poilievre is a strong candidate for the Prime Minister. And there is advice also from him that they should make government accountable what they are doing, which you are doing. But your policies, he said, that should be discussed during the election campaigns. How you see that statement?
Well, anybody who's smart would listen to Stephen Harper. He's a great political strategist, and he was a great prime minister. When Prime Minister Harper was in power, the average house cost $450,000. The average rent for a two-bedroom in the 10 biggest cities in Canada was only $1,100. You could afford to live. Gas was affordable. Food was affordable. Our economy was the best in the G7. Those were wonderful times for Canada. But that gives me hope that we can do it again. We can bring home a Canada that works for the people who do the work. And that's going to be my mission.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. Thank you very much for joining with us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chopra. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you.